We're delighted to be hosting this very exciting evening in collaboration with the Oxford University Press of bilingual literary readings from Bengali, Hindi, and Urdu with a very distinguished group of readers, Mr. Uday Prakash, Rakshananda Jalil, Arunava Sinha, and Jason Grunenbaum. And we will celebrate and discuss the art of translation with the very practitioners that are committed to enlarging the conversation of literature and to sharing South Asian voices throughout the world. We will conclude the evening in virtual conversation with Gulanamo Rodriguez, author of a new book on the groundbreaking and brilliant poet, scholar A.K. Ramanujan, who, as many of you may know, was associated with the University of Chicago. Today's event was made possible by two faculty and scholars from the University of Chicago, Shrikant Reddy and Jason Grunenbaum. So a big thank you to them for taking the effort and the time to come in from Chicago. And they received a grant from the center in Delhi to actually put the program together. In fact, the University of Chicago's program in creative writing promotes a very global perspective on literary arts and translation, with symposia on contemporary Anglophone Indian poetry, literary translation, and readings by major international writers such as Anne Waldman. She'll be actually speaking at the Delhi Center in January. And Beidou, the university centers in Hong Kong, Delhi, and beyond, furnish an expanding global forum for literary arts in our transnational intellectual community. A brief 2-minute introduction about the center. We were established 2.5 years ago and provide a forum and an intellectual collaboration space between Chicago scholars and Indian scholars. It serves as a working space for faculty and a gathering space for students and alumni across disciplines. We have a number of initiatives that we have undertaken at the center in Delhi. First of a kind, which is very topical in today's Delhi, is actually a partnership with the government of Delhi, where we have come together to crowdsource the best local ideas to improve Delhi's air quality. So we actually announced 3 winners 2 weeks ago, and we're working with them to scale up their projects, something to watch out for in today's environment. Under our fellowship program, graduate students from the University of Chicago are selected and paired with students from Indian universities and recruited in teams to work with various government agencies across the country on a year-long fellowship that implements innovative solutions to important development programs. Our new Tata Center for Development, which is being led by the Harris School of Public Policy in collaboration with the Tata Trust, integrates evidence-based policy research across key areas of health, water sanitation, energy, and environment. So as you can see, we have a lot that is happening at the center. Details of all our programs are available on our website. So please do register and attend as many programs that are of interest. And with that, let me pass it over to my colleague, Jason Grunenbaum, Senior Lecturer in Hindi at the University of Chicago, to start the evening today.
So tonight we have 4 readers. As Aditi said, we have readings from Bangla, Urdu, and Hindi. So we'd like to start our readings tonight with Rakshanda Jalil. So let me briefly introduce her first. Dr. Rakshanda Jalil is a writer, critic, and literary historian. She has edited 4 collections of short stories, Urdu stories, a selection by Pakistani women writers called Neither Night Nor Day, New Urdu Writings from India and Pakistan, and Pigeons of the Dome, Stories of Communalism, a collection of essays on the little-known monuments of Delhi called Invisible City, 2 co-authored books, Partners in Freedom, Jamia Millia Islamia, and Journey to a Holy Land, A Pilgrim's Diary. She was co-editor of The Third Frame, a journal devoted to literature, culture, and society, brought out by the Cambridge University Press. She has edited and introduced a volume of essays entitled Kurdulan Haider and the River of Fire, the meaning, scope, and significance of her legacy. As a translator, she has published 10 works of translations, both poetry and prose, including the works of Premchand, Asghar Wajahat, Manto, and the Urdu poet Shahriyar, Intezar Hussain, and the Hindi writer Renu. She runs an organization called Hindustani Awaz, devoted to the popularization of Hindi Urdu literature and culture. She was given the Kafi Azmi Award for her contribution to Urdu literature. She is a trustee of the Ghalib Institute, Delhi, and on the board of the annual Shankar Shad Mushaira organized by the DCM Sri Ram Group. Please join me in offering a warm welcome to Dr. Rakshanda Jalil.
Shahriyar, as you would know, is this remarkable Urdu poet who is to be found in this intersection of modernism, Taraqi Pasandi, and Jadidiyat. So you might think that they are the same, but in Urdu they are actually poles apart. I have two editors from OUP, and earlier in the day we were talking about the possibility of a full-fledged biography of Shahryar, which possibly OUP might be interested in publishing. So this is an ongoing work. I'll just read a couple of really short nazms. Now, Shahryar wrote both ghazals and nazms. I think attempting to translate the ghazal is a very sort of complicated exercise. It doesn't lend itself very easily to translation in English. The nazm, however, is more amenable to translation. So I'll read a couple of really short nazms. And my sense is that this audience, if I were to read the Urdu alongside my translations, you will get a sense of it. So I'm going to read something which I used as the dedication to this volume because it gathers together a lot of the motifs, a lot of the images that are to be found in Shahryar's poetry. मेरे लिए रात ने आज फराहम किया एक नया मरहला, नींदों से खाली किया, अश्कों से फिर भर दिया कासा मेरी आँख का और कहा कान में, मैंने हर एक जुर्म से तुमको बरी कर दिया, मैंने सदा के लिए तुमको रिहा कर दिया, जाओ जिधर चाहो तुम, जागो कि सो जाओ तुम, ख्वाब का दर बंद है. And the translation, always inadequate, but sort of a necessary evil if we are to know more than. Tonight, the night presented me with a new dilemma. It emptied the basin of my eye of all sleep and filled it with tears. Then it whispered in my ear, I have absolved you of all sin and set you free forever. Go wherever you wish, sleep or stay awake. The doorway of dreams is closed for you. Another very short nazm. Jason, do you think I should read the Hindi alongside? Or,
I think you should.
Yeah? एक काली नज़्म. मैं कोरे कागज़ पर लिखूं फिर एक काली नज़्म, अलख जगाते सन्नाटों से फिर से सजाऊं बज़्म, गद्दर अमरूदों की खुशबू पागल कर जाए, मेरी इन खाली आँखों को जल थल कर जाए, दूर दरिंदों की आवाज़ें खुद से लड़ती हों, मेरे उसके बीच में लंबी रातें पड़ती हों, शिकनों से आरी एक बिस्तर मुझको तकता हो, जिस्म मेरा जब आधा सोता आधा जगता हो, तब मैं करूं ये अज़्म कि लिखूं एक काली नज़्म. A black poem. Let me write a black poem on virgin paper. Let me light up this banquet with unseen, formless silences. Now, just as an aside, I often use this poem when I go for translation workshops and so on, and I try and point out that for a Kali Nazm, Kore Kagaz, I could have said blank paper. I chose to say virgin paper. So these are the small liberties that translators take, and there's always something at the back of your mind which is also pushing you to make that final choice. The smell of unripe guavas maddens me. It makes my empty eyes brim with wetness. Again, I could have said tears, but this is more suitable for a translation workshop, but I can't sort of resist pointing out how every now and then as a translator, you have A, B, C options and you choose any one option, and it's at the end of the day a subjective choice. Far away, wild animals growl and snap at each other. Between us lie endless nights. An uncreased bed stares at me. My body half sleeps, half wakes, and I resolve to write a black poem. One more and then I think I'll end. कुछ बोलने दो, खुशबू के दरीचे खोलने दो, तोलने दो, इस तायरे जां को दूर देश के लंबे सफ़र पर जाने दो, पर तोलने दो, बोलने दो, इस जिस्म की क़ैद में सुर्ख लहू को बोलने दो, इन सब सुनहरे पर्दों के उस सिमत बड़ा सन्नाटा है, मत टोको मुझे, मत रोको मुझे, कुछ बोलने दो. Let me speak. Let me open the window of fragrances. Let it fly. Let this bird-like soul fly far, far away. Let it speak. Let the red blood imprisoned in this body speak. Behind the gold and green curtain lies an impenetrable silence. Don't hush me. Don't stop me. Let me speak. Have I used up my time?
You could actually read one more if you have one.
Maybe a short one.
Thank you.
Okay. मैं नहीं जागता, मैं नहीं जागता, तुम जागो. सियाह रात की जुल्फ इतनी उलझी है कि सुलझा नहीं सकता. बारहा कर चुका हूँ कोशिश मैं भी, तुम भी अपनी सी करो. इस तगो-दौ के लिए ख्वाब मेरे हाजिर हैं. नींद इन ख्वाबों के दरवाज़ों से लौट जाती है. सुनो, जागने के लिए इनका होना सहल कर देगा बहुत कुछ तुम पर. आसमां रेग में कागज़ की नाव रुक गई है, इसे हरकत में लाओ. और क्या करना है तुम जानते हो. मैं नहीं जागता, तुम जागो. सियाह रात की जुल्फ इतनी उलझी है कि सुलझा नहीं सकता कोई. Now, as you'll notice, there is this popular perception that Urdu poetry is about the Shama, Parwana and the Bulbul. It actually isn't. There are a whole host of images, and even when the Urdu poet, the contemporary Urdu poet, draws upon seemingly traditional images, he invests them with a new agency, with a new contemporaneity, and it is entirely possible to read a sharp political meaning in this. In Shahryar, for example, the night is a symbol for the darkness of the times. I won't lie awake. I won't lie awake. You do. Night's dark tresses are so tangled that I can't untangle them. I have tried time and again. Now you try. I will give you my dreams to help you in your endeavors. Sleep has turned away from the doorway of these dreams. Listen, these dreams will make it easy for you to stay awake. The paper boat has stopped in the sands of the skies. Row it, make it move. You know what you have to do. I won't lie awake, you do. Night's dark tresses are so tangled that no one can untangle them. Thank you.
Anyone who's done any literary translation knows that translation is a series of endless challenges at so many different levels, at the level of meaning, at the level of subtext, at the level of context, at the level of recontextualization from one culture to another culture. And the process of translation is really coming up with different possible solutions, and then, settling on one, which is a very difficult thing because there's no one definitive translation of anything. The great Spanish translator Gregory Rabassa once talked about how when he reads something that he wrote maybe 20 or 30 years ago that he wrote originally in English, he thinks, maybe that guy had something interesting to say, that he knew what he was talking about. But if he reads a translation that he did, it's an excruciating process because he says, I would have made this choice differently and that choice differently. So it's sort of an infinite number of translations that are possible. But some of the heroic work that Rakshanda is doing, Arunava, and so many other heroes are making sure that these works have another life. Another translator, Elliot Weinberger, once spoke about translation. He was talking about poetry, but he says, a poem dies when it has nowhere to go. And I think what we've seen tonight is some poems that have continued to travel and to some very beautiful places. So with that, I'd like to introduce our next reader, Arunava Sinha, who translates classic, modern, and contemporary Bangla fiction and nonfiction into English. 36 of his translation, he's the hardest working man in the translation business, have been published so far. Besides India, his translations have been published in the UK and the US in English and several European and Asian countries through further translation. English, as you might suspect, is sort of a gateway language that other languages then translate from the English, so that allows exposure to many other languages. He also edits the Library of Bangladesh and series and curates Seagull Books India list. Everybody should go and Google the Seagull Books India list immediately after this. It's a beautiful list. He was born and grew up in Kolkata and lives and writes in New Delhi. Arunabha.
In Bengali literature, the shadow of Rabindranath Tagore was so large that many other people who did some fantastic work very often were subdued well after his death. Mitra was a writer of novels, short stories, poetry, screenplays, lyrics. He also directed some films, and he is best known for a series of stories that he wrote about an inveterate liar who was known as Ghanada. Baron Munchausen inspired the character, and world history has been retold by the stories that the way Ghanada told them about how he was at the center of everything important that happened. This, however, is not one of those stories. I'll read one paragraph in Bangla just to give you a feel of the language, even if it doesn't make much sense, and then move into English. This story uses a very unusual structure, as you will discover. The text does, as you will discover when I read. It's called Telena Pota Abishkar. শনি ও মঙ্গলের মঙ্গলই হবে বোধহয় যোগাযোগ হলে তেলেনাপোতা আপনারাও একদিন আবিষ্কার করতে পারেন। অর্থাৎ কাজে কর্মে মানুষের ভিড়ে হাঁফিয়ে ওঠার পর যদি হঠাৎ দুদিনের জন্য ছুটি পাওয়া যায়, আর যদি কেউ এসে ফুসলানি দেয় যে কোনো এক আশ্চর্য সরোবরে পৃথিবীর সবচেয়ে সরলতম মাছেরা এখনও তাদের জল জীবনের প্রথম বড়শিতে হৃদয়বিদ্ধ করবার জন্য উদ্গ্রীব হয়ে আছে, আর জীবনে কখনো কয়েকটা পুঁটি ছাড়া অন্য কিছু জল থেকে টেনে তোলার সৌভাগ্য যদি আপনার না হয়ে থাকে, তাহলে হঠাৎ একদিন তেলেনাপোতা আপনিও আবিষ্কার করতে পারেন। On to the English. The discovery of Telenapota. If Saturn and Mars, it must be Mars, are in conjunction, you too can discover Telenapota one day. In other words, if a day or two of leave can be obtained unexpectedly, just when you are gasping from work and multitudes of people, and if someone tempts you with the information that in a lake of miracles somewhere, the most simple-minded fish in the world are waiting eagerly to have their hearts impaled on a hook at the end of a rod for the first time in their lives, and if you have never had the good fortune of extracting anything but small fry from the water, then you too might unexpectedly discover Telenapota one day. To discover Telenapota, you must board a bus packed with people and their possessions in the waning sunlight one afternoon, suffer jabs from other passengers' elbows every time there is a bump on the road, and then in the August heat, drag your sweaty, dust-caked body off the bus without warning somewhere along the way. In front of you, you will see the road running over a low swamp like a bridge. After the bus passes along with an eccentric rumble and disappears around a bend, you will notice that although the sun has not set yet, darkness has descended on the thick jungle all around you. You will not see a soul anywhere. The birds too will seem to have forsaken this place. You will become aware of the damp, sultry weather. A cruel, coiled source of venom will rise up slowly from the swamp, its invisible hood poised to strike. You will have to step off the highway, walk down to the swamp, and wait next to it. It will seem as though someone has dug a muddy canal running through the dense jungle stretching out before you, but even its line has petered out in the distance amidst the bamboo groves and tall, shaggy trees on either side. You should have two companions for your discovery of Telenapota. They may not be drawn to fishing as you are, yet they have come with you on this journey. No one knows why. The three of you will gaze eagerly at the canal in front of you. From time to time, you will stamp your feet to prevent the mosquitoes from getting too intimate while you exchange questioning glances with one another. A little later, you will no longer be able to see each other's faces in the gathering darkness. The chorus of the mosquitoes will grow sharper. Just as you are wondering whether to return to the highway and wait for a return bus, you will suddenly hear an exquisite sound, wondrous to your senses, from the point where the muddy canal has vanished into the jungle. Someone will seem to force even the silent forest to emit unworldly sobs. The sounds will make your wait restless, but be patient, and your patience will not be in vain. You will see first a pinpoint of light swaying in the darkness, and then a bullock cart will emerge slowly from the jungle, rolling from side to side as it moves along the canal. The cart will match the bullocks. It will seem as though this minuscule version of the cart has come from an underground land of dwarves. Without wasting words, the three of you will squeeze yourself beneath the hood on the cart, somehow solving the problem posed by three pairs of arms and legs and three heads, how to place the largest of objects in the smallest of spaces. The cart will then return the way it came, along the canal. In utter wonderment, you will see how the dense and dark jungle reveals the way forward little by little, like a narrow tunnel. At every moment, the wall of darkness will seem impenetrable, but the cart will move ahead slowly, unperturbed, as though clearing a path with its wheels. For some time, you will be uncomfortable and discomposed as you try to position your arms, legs, and head suitably. At every moment, there will be inadvertent collisions with your friends, and then you will gradually realize that the last island of consciousness has been submerged in the dense darkness surrounding you. You will feel as though you have left the familiar world somewhere far behind. There is another one here, shrouded in fog, devoid of sensation, where the current of time is stilled, silent. With time standing still, you will not know how long you have been sunk in this mist. Woken up suddenly by a cacophonous music, you will realize that the stars are visible from beneath the hood, and that the driver is beating a tin canister at intervals with great enthusiasm. Curious, you will ask why, whereupon the driver will inform you indifferently to get rid of the damned wild animals. Once you have grasped this properly, the driver will reassure you before you can ask, your voice trembling, whether beating a canister is sufficient to keep tigers at bay, that he is referring to leopards, and unless the beast is famished, this sound will be enough to keep it at a distance. While you wonder how a place infested by leopards can exist a mere 30 miles from the metropolis, the bullock cart will cross an enormous field. The delayed waning moon will have risen in the sky by then. Dimly, silently, a succession of giant men on guard will appear to pass slowly on either side of the cart. The ruins of ancient palaces, here a pillar, there the arch of a gate, elsewhere a fragment of a temple, will be standing with the futile hope of offering their testimony to eternity. Sitting as upright as you can in the circumstances, you will feel a shiver run down your body. Something will make you feel you have gone beyond the living world to enter a murky realm of memories from the past. You won't know what time of night it is, but it will seem the night never ends here. Everything will be sunk in a deep silence without beginning or end, just like carcasses preserved in formaldehyde at the museum. We'll stop here. Thank you.
To buy the phrase lost in translation from the world, dig a very deep hole and bury it so that nobody could ever use that again. I think that a translation, bringing a translation into the world means that now whereas before we had one original work, now we have two original works, so it's always a net gain. And I think that the beautiful translation that you just read showed us the kind of worlds that are being opened up through this craft. So finally, I forgot to write an introduction for Uday Prakash because in a way we've been working together, and I've been so fortunate to have been his translator for over 10 years now that I feel like it would almost be like introducing myself, of course, except for the fact that Uday is a far more accomplished and famous writer. But let me just say a few brief words. Uday Prakash, as many of you know, is one of contemporary Hindi's most daring and wonderful and creative and original authors. Originally a poet, also a fiction writer who has published, I think at last count, maybe 12 volumes of stories and a novella, Pili Chatriwali Larki. Uday, I think, is the first person to both receive the Sahitya Academy Award in Hindi and certainly the first person to return the Sahitya Academy Award in Hindi, which I think many people are probably aware of. Personally, I find Uday's voice just so engaging, and that's how I first fell in love with his work. Somehow, the kind of gorgeous, meandering storytelling. I mean, Uday is one of the most gifted storytellers, I think, living in any language today. And I don't think anybody who's read his work hasn't been both enchanted by his storytelling, but also moved not only emotionally, but also in a political way as well. The story that we're going to read from tonight is from the collection The Walls of Delhi, which was shortlisted in 2013 for the DSC Prize in South Asian Literature. It's part of a volume of 3 novellas, The Walls of Delhi, Mohandas, and Mango Sill. So we're going to read, Uday is going to read a little bit from the Hindi. It's a story about a slum child who gets smarter and smarter as his head grows bigger and bigger, diagnosed with an undiagnosable disease that is referred to as mango cyl. So I'm going to hand over the microphone to Uday Prakash. Please join me in giving him a warm welcome.
I personally feel that the day when you find a very good translator, you discover your own originality. So I'm thankful, and in fact, I'm really grateful to my translators, and Jason is one of them. And because of his translations, I found my voice. Like he said, that it's kind of English is a gateway. So before I was translated, I was really feeling lack of confidence, and I had doubt about my own language and my own capabilities as a writer. But now I have a confidence. I'm a little unwell, so I'm going to take a couple of minutes, not more than that. And it's a mango cyl. This is the last long short story which I wrote, and it's also the long short story which he has translated. And I read its beginning. मैंगो सेल। प्रलय का प्राकथन कहानी के पहले इसे पढ़ना अनिवार्य है। यह किस्सा चंद्रकांत थोराट का है और मेरा भी है, और यह किस्सा अभी का है, इसी समय का, अभी हाल फिलहाल की तारीखों का। इसमें कुछ ऐसे पात्र हैं जो अपने दिक और काल के बाहर फेंक दिए गए हैं और अब वे किसी प्रलय की प्रतीक्षा में हैं। मैं भी उन्हीं कुछ पात्रों में से एक हूँ जो अपने दिक और काल के बाहर किसी मलिन बस्ती में नगर सभ्यता से दूर रहते हैं। अलग अलग सत्ताओं द्वारा अधिग्रहित कर ली गई धरती पर किसी उपनगर में जीवन बिताने की चेष्टाएं भी किसी एक अभागे दिन किसी टाउन प्लानर, किसी दलाल या किसी कॉलोनाइज़र के नक्शे में दिखाई दे जाती हैं। पूंजी और सत्ता के हर रोज़ फैलते साम्राज्य की अभियांत्रिकी के बुलडोज़र्स एक किसी दिन किसी मेट्रो रेल, फ्लाईओवर, किसी शॉपिंग मॉल, बांध, खदान, उद्योग या किसी 5 सितारा होटल के रूप में उस मलिन बस्ती में भी पहुंचते हैं और वहां चंद्रकांत थोराट जैसा जीवन समाप्त हो जाता है।
Mango cyl. A preface to the end of time. Reading this preface is mandatory. This is the story of Chandrakant Thorat. It's also my story. And it's a story that takes place in the present day, in our own time, a tale with the sights and sounds of this day and age. A few of the characters have been cast out of their own space and time and now stand in wait for the destruction at the end. I am one of them, living outside my proper space and time, in a filthy quarter far from the finery and culture of the city. The efforts of human beings to lead lives in the shanty towns that circle the city on grabbed land eventually take shape one unfortunate day on the maps of a town planner or property dealer or urban colonizer. Then, the engineers of the empire of money send out the bulldozers. They fan out nonstop until even a dirty sprawl of shacks is transformed into a metro rail, a flyover, a shopping mall, a dam, a quarry, a factory, or 5-star plus hotel. And when it happens, lives like Chandrakant Thorat's are gone for good. Chandrakant Thorat is a friend of mine, and he's one of the characters of this story. My life is bound to his as if by decree or fate. Even if I didn't want it to be so, it would be. You ought to know the truth. There are only 2 reasons lives like ours are stamped out. 1, our lives are left over as proof of past and present sins and crimes against castes, races, cultures. They always want to keep this as hidden as they can. 2, our lives get in the way of the enterprising city or act as a road bump in the master plan of a country that thinks of itself as a big player on the world stage. Our very humanity threatens to reveal the wicked culture of money and means as something suspect and unlovely. That's why whenever civilizations once developing, now on the brink of prosperity, decide to embark on a program of beautification, they try to root out such lives, the same way the mess on the floor is swept out back. Suppose we fled these megalopolises to an exurb or to the mountains or into the forest or a small town. There, too, lives like ours would one day be inundated and swept away, just as the Harappan or Babylonian civilizations you must have read about in archaeology books were also wiped out. The memory of the destruction at the end of time lies in the psyche of every community, of every people, including ours. There's something else you should know. Whenever our lives are steamrolled in the name of cultural progress and cultural beauty to profit the rich city or state, or when lives drown for power and energy, it's not just us. The deer, butterflies, birds, elephants, people, antique trees, the flora, divine beings all, are also washed away from this earth. Beings that descended from heaven thousands of years ago in the ancient Treta or Dwapar epics, beings that settled into rocks and books so that our suffering might be eased, to allow us to endure our pain and desolation, to light our way like a candle or firefly or light bulb in the darkness. When violence permeates everything and reality has become a nightmare, these creatures carry us into a dream. You know the truth. None of it is meant for us. Not the medicine of the rich, developed nations that give relief from suffering, or the energy that creates the illusion of light and wind and words and dazzle. None of it is meant for us. Top-tier hospitals, banks, institutions, courts, parliaments, wide boulevards aren't for us. We're chased away from these places or crushed underfoot. Only they may inhabit the buildings and institutions built by civilizations of wealth. Their constitutions only serve to protect their interests. Their language of poetry and legend is covered with our blood, sorrow, tears, and sweat. Their poems and epics aren't ours. They want to keep us out of everything: poetry, prose, music, cities, industry, the marketplace. We're the drudging, untouchable, poor, unemployed, anxious, and hungry people who, to them, are utterly unknown. They despise us each and every moment. Each and every moment, they wish to do away with us. Thank you.